need me to go, Sam? Okay. Good morning, everyone. In the last day or so, we have all seen on the news and social media the horrific pictures and videos coming out of Jasper. Homes and businesses have been lost to a wildfire that people are calling a wall of flames. There is no denying that this is the worst nightmare for any community. To the residents of Jasper and those displaced far from home looking at the images of your town on TV and online, the feelings of loss and fear and loneliness must be overwhelming. But you are not alone. All Albertans are with you. For many generations, the town of Jasper and the parks surrounding it have been a source of pride. With some of the most beautiful scenery in the entire, in the world. Our grandparents visited to experience the majesty of this place with its mountains and lakes and meadows. They took our parents, who then took us to this special spot that they'd spent time in as children. And now we take our own kids and our own loved ones and visitors from around the world to feel that same feeling that you get with your first glimpse of the mountains on the horizon. A feeling that even though you've just left home, you're coming home. And so although those of us who experience Jasper as visitors can't imagine what it feels like to be a Jasperite right now, we share this sense of loss with all of those who live in the town, who care for it, and who have helped build it. Jasper, we will continue to stand by you, and as everyone works to get their feet back under them, and as we look forward to recovery. Right now, the wildfire is still out of control, and crews are working in dangerous conditions to try and protect critical infrastructure in the town. So to the brave men and women currently on the ground in Jasper, I want to express my deep gratitude and the gratitude of all Albertans. Whether you are part of the initial efforts or whether you were activated and drove in there last night or early this morning, there really are not enough words to express our thanks and our wishes for your safety and your success. Once again, you've put yourselves on the front lines in a show of true heroism. Thank you for your bravery and your commitment to keeping Albertans safe. Well, I will leave the specific details on the situation and the efforts of those fighting it to Ministers Todd Loewen and Minister Mike Ellis, as well as to our Alberta Wildfire officials here with us today, Stephen Lacroix from the Emergency Management Agency and Christy Tucker from Forest. Let me assure you that Alberta is doing all that we can. Our Emergency Management Cabinet Committee meeting has been meeting daily for the last several days, and will continue to do so. I have been in communication with the Federal Minister of Public Safety, Dominic LeBlanc. He's the Minister of Public Safety, Democratic Institutions and Intergovernmental Affairs. The Alberta Emergency Management Agency, Jasper Mayor Richard Ireland, and many others. I understand that Minister LeBlanc is being briefed as we speak, and I look forward to meeting with Minister Harjit Sajjan here in Edmonton later this afternoon, where he will join us at our command center. Alberta stands ready to assist in every way that we can, and I have asked Minister LeBlanc to move to a unified command structure so that Alberta can better help. We hope to hear a positive response from Parks Canada on this, and in the meantime, we will continue to provide any and all support that they request in any way that we can. I can tell you that Alberta Wildfire supported the Parks Canada Incident Management Team yesterday. They report that the situation on the ground overnight was extremely volatile. As we continue to battle the fire, our government will move to daily updates with Ministers Lowen and Ellis, as well as Alberta Wildfire officials. And we will continue with our daily written updates as well. To the residents, families, and business owners who call Jasper home, we will recover from this. To the men and women on the front line and at all operational levels, thank you for your courage and commitment. And to those in Alberta and around the world who have experienced the magic of Jasper. The magic is not lost, and it never will be. Alberta's government will provide the support needed to families and community to recover and to rebuild stronger than ever so that future generations can continue to experience this one-of-a-kind community and to feel the magic of being able to come home. Now, thank you, and I'll turn it over to Minister Ellis.
Well, thank you, Premier, and thank you for those heartfelt words. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. The news that we're hearing out of Jasper is deeply saddening for all of us, but especially for all the residents who call this beautiful part of the province home. And I want all of you to know that Alberta's government is here for you, and we are doing everything that we can to fight this fire, to save as much of Jasper as that we can. Jasper holds a very special place in all of our hearts, as the Premier mentioned. We all have a memory of our first visit and being struck by the wonder of this awesome beauty of the surrounding natural landscape, which is why this fire and the destruction it has caused is so devastating for all of us. The municipality of Jasper and Parks Canada, as the unified command for this wildfire response, will be in the best position to provide details on the exact impacts of the town and the national park. Officials at all levels continue to work together to protect everything that we can and, of course, to support evacuees. I commend wildland firefighters who are working tirelessly to prevent the fire from reaching our town sites throughout Alberta. The Alberta Emergency Management Agency has helped the municipality request structural firefighters from Hinton, Edmonton, and 32 other municipalities, plus Lakeland College and industrial firefighters from across the province as it relates to Jasper. I assure you that we have made efforts to mobilize every resource available to bring relief and support to the community. The Provincial Emergency Coordination Center is now at a level 4 activation to ensure full coordination across the provincial government. Our staff helped arrange staging grounds, meeting points, hotels for all those involved in the situation on the ground. And we continue to have field officers embedded within the local incident management team to help make connections between local authorities, first responders, government ministries, and municipal resources in other areas. I want to reiterate that Alberta Health Services and Emergency Medical Services safely evacuated patients from the area, including both acute care patients and designated support living residents. Patients and designated supporting living residents were transported to healthcare facilities in Edson and Hinton. 2 patients were flown to Prince George. We're also aware that the Seniors Lodge was evacuated separately. Alberta Health Services has contacted families of those impacted and will continue to provide information as needed. Reception centers for evacuees have been up and running in Grand Prairie, Calgary, Edmonton since Tuesday. Staff are working around the clock to provide mental health supports for all those impacted. Municipal emergency social services teams located at each reception center have been welcoming evacuees for the past few days. They're providing support for immediate basic needs with a focus on providing food and water, a place to stay, supports for physical and emotional well-being. I'd like to commend and thank the cities of Edmonton, Calgary, Grand Prairie for stepping up and accommodating their fellow Albertans at a time of need. And to all other municipalities who have stepped up to offer support in the firefighting effort, thank you. Thank you on behalf of all Albertans. Apart from the situation in Jasper, the Municipal District of Bighorn issued an evacuation order for the area east of Highway 40 and west of Ghost Public Land Access Point. A reception center continues to be open to evacuees in Water Valley Community Hall. An evacuation alert is also in effect for residents of the surrounding area, meaning that they should be prepared to evacuate with little notice. There are resources that can help people to get ready. That's at alberta.ca/be ready. On that webpage, the public can find everything from a list of items to pack, details on how to prepare your pets, your vehicles in the event of an evacuation. In addition to the areas I previously mentioned, evacuation orders are also remain in effect for Little Red River Cree Nation, including the communities of John Doerr Prairie, Fox Lake, and Garden River. The Municipal District of Opportunities evacuation order of Chippewa Lake is also still in place. The evacuation order for Janvier 194, part of the Chippewa Prairie First Nation, and the evacuation alert for the hamlet of Janvier were both lifted by the local authorities this morning after some helpful rainfall. We continue to ask residents in all affected communities to listen to local officials, follow any evacuation orders and instructions that you may receive. Follow the Alberta Emergency Alert app and website, your local municipality for evacuation information and available services. Alberta 511 also provides an up-to-date information on highway closures and conditions. The estimated number of evacuees province-wide remains at more than 17,500. This number is still limited to people who are displaced from their residence or who need supports. While there were an estimated 25,000 people in the Jasper National Park at the time of the evacuation order, the vast majority of these people were visitors with other places to return to. I'll reiterate that to those under an evacuation order to please register online as an evacuee at emergencyregistration.alberta.ca. Doing so will help access resources and important information like updates and reentry plans. Individuals who are a part of a mandatory evacuation order exceeding a minimum of 7 days, including temporary foreign workers, are eligible to receive a one-time payment of $1,250 for each adult and an additional $500 for each child under the age of 18. Residents of the following communities can apply for emergency evacuation payments: the Garden River community within a Little Red River Cree Nation, Janvier 194, which is part of the Chippewa Prairie First Nation, and Chippewa Lake. We are ever and forever grateful for the work of wildfire personnel, local authorities, and emergency officials. Our thoughts are, of course, with the families and the businesses and workers who are wrestling with the thoughts of their own homes and livelihoods and their sense of security. But in times like these, we invariably witness an unwavering spirit of community, and that's what we've seen here in Alberta. The bravery of our firefighters, the dedication of the first responders, emergency management personnel, and the compassion of EMTs and social support workers is truly inspirational. I understand that many Albertans are facing extremely trying time at present. Know this, your fellow Albertans are with you. Alberta's government is here for you, along with our various interagency partners. We will continue to work diligently to support you, protect your communities, and I thank you, and I'd like to now invite Minister Loewen to make a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Ellis, and thanks everyone for being here for this morning's wildfire update. Yesterday marked a truly heartbreaking day in our province's history, as late Wednesday afternoon, the wildfire in Jasper National Park made contact with Jasper town site. The images we're seeing out of Jasper are devastating, and my heart goes out to the community. Words of any kind seem insufficient right now, but to the people of Jasper, I'm incredibly sorry for your loss. I'd also like to say that we're grateful to community members and visitors for following local alerts and evacuating when they did. While the pain of what's occurring right now is overwhelming, we can all be grateful that residents and visitors are safe. We're thankful, too, for everything our brave firefighters and emergency responders did to try to battle the fire. We know without these firefighters, things could have been even worse. This wildfire is under the command of Parks Canada, and we are assisting them with all available assets and have offered up any help that they require. Alberta's government will continue to lend support to firefighting operations in the region. So far, we've sent firefighters, support personnel, water trucks, a dozer group, helicopters, and air tankers to assist with response on the Jasper wildfire. Alberta's government is also sending an incident management team to help assess the situation, and we have personnel and resources standing by to help as needed. I'd also like to thank our federal partners for responding as quickly as they did to our urgent request for help from the Canadian Armed Forces. We're currently strategizing the best way to utilize these firefighting resources. Alberta once again finds itself in a difficult and dangerous situation due to wildfires. Heightened wildfire danger and activity have taken their toll on the well-being of countless Albertans and communities. and danger levels look like they'll remain high in many areas for the foreseeable future. Alberta currently has over 170 active wildfires burning throughout the province, with more than 50 of these classified as out of control. Many of the wildfires we're seeing at this time of the year are lightning caused, and we unfortunately can't control the weather. But what we can do as a province is exercise extreme caution. Now more than ever, make sure you follow all local advisories and restrictions. While it may not always feel like it, our actions and choices as Albertans play a crucial role in keeping our province safe. Preventing further human-caused wildfires and doing what we can to support our emergency responders will allow them to do their jobs more effectively. Before I hand things over to Christy Tucker, I want to say once again how incredibly grateful we are for the work of all wildfire personnel, local authorities, and emergency officials who are battling wildfires across the province to keep Albertans safe. Thank you as well to our provincial, federal, and international partners who did not hesitate to send their highly experienced and trained wildland firefighters to support our hardworking Alberta personnel. The situation unfolding in Jasper is gut-wrenching. Nothing will change that. But to the residents of Jasper, know that Alberta is with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. There are 176 wildfires burning in the forest protection area of Alberta. 54 of those are out of control, 50 are being held, and 69 are under control. Rain in the northern half of the province has reduced some of the wildfire danger that we've seen there over the past week, but the danger remains extreme in the northeast and the south of the province. There's still smoke in the air, which may cause concerns for people around air quality. For information about the air in your area, you can visit wildfire smoke information on alberta.ca. We've seen this week the effect that strong winds can have on the intensity and spread of a wildfire. We're expecting more of those winds in the province today, which will raise the fire danger for those areas particularly that didn't get much rain. As others have said, we're grateful to the nearly 1,900 Alberta firefighters, contractors, and support staff who have been working hard in heat and difficult conditions this wildfire season. We're also grateful to the Australians who arrived this weekend, and we'll be welcoming at least 400 additional firefighters from overseas in the coming days. 100 firefighters from Jalisco, Mexico will arrive today. 200 from South Africa will be here tomorrow, and another 100 from Australia and New Zealand are expected Sunday and Monday. In addition, we welcome any assistance offered from the Canadian Armed Forces. These resources will be sent around the province to areas where they will be most effective in the wildfire response. Alberta Wildfire has been actively supporting Parks Canada in their response to the wildfires in Jasper. As the Minister mentioned, we provided water trucks, heavy equipment, helicopters, unit crews, and offered air tanker and night vision equipped helicopter support. We've also helped with wildfire intelligence and in assisting the relocation of the incident management team in Jasper. This is a high priority wildfire, and we have aircraft, firefighters, and more support staff standing by to help. An incident management team is mobilizing today and tomorrow in order to support that response. The loss in Jasper is felt by everyone in the wildfire family, as it is by all Albertans. But we know we have a job to do, and our firefighters and support staff will be out there doing it today and for the rest of the season, whatever it brings. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now enter the media Q&A portion. We'll start off here with questions in the room before going over to the phones. There's just a microphone in the middle of the room here, and we'll go to our first question at the mic. Please state your name and outlet.
Naranisa with CTV Edmonton. This is for the Premier. We were looking for some clarification when it comes to who called the shots for this fire. When it was first detected, when it was inching towards town, because it is a federal park, who calls the shots? Who is in charge of this right now for this firefight?
Parks Canada is in unified command with the municipality of Jasper, and we are providing whatever assistance that they ask for. I think Minister Lowen indicated the ways in which we've provided support. We've positioned our equipment, and we remain on standby to do whatever it is that they request. Minister Harjit Sajjan is coming today, and we're going to talk about moving so that we can also be integrated in that unified command. We'll see if we can move towards that. It will allow for us to just be more integrated in the decision-making on that.
And you talked about a unified command center. What is the reasoning for that? How it would help, like with provincial and federal supports? And, kind of talking about when you mentioned that the feds are in charge, but you guys also called for military support. So who makes that call then? For an earlier call on that?
I'd been in touch with the Prime Minister's office through my staff. Minister Ellis had been in touch with his counterpart, and Managing Director Stephen Lacroix had been in touch with the military as of July 18th, letting them know that a call might come in. The ultimate decision on who to bring resources in at the moment is with Parks Canada in unified command with the municipality of Jasper. If we were able to be part of unified command, there's just a few things that when I raised it with Dominic LeBlanc, we can't just send equipment into federal airspace without coordination. You can't send in unmanned aerial vehicles, which we use with infrared. We can't send in our helicopters with night vision. We can't send in water bombers without being integrated with them. That's one of the reasons. We also are very quick to respond with dozers to be able to create fire guards, and so we can't do that without them giving the order that to assist in building those fire guards and putting dozers around. We also have a bunch of new equipment, as I've mentioned. We do night vision helicopters to allow us to get a sense of where the fire is so that we can place crews. We would be able to bring that to bear. We have also changed to doing night firefighting. We found that we have the ability to get ahead of the fires. When there's night firefighting, they don't do that, as I understand it, with Parks Canada, so that would be another thing that we would be able to bring to bear. And then we also have a lot of resources with the urban wildfire interface. We put an RFP out to 4 different companies that are able to put essentially a wall of water up to match the wall of fire, and so these are the kind of resources that we would bring to bear as part of unified command.
Darcy Robchan, City News. I think this might be for Christy Tucker, but can you speak to any impact at all that the rain in Jasper has had, if any, on the situation there?
Well, I can't say precipitation is always welcome in that it increases the humidity, even if it doesn't fall directly enough water falls on the fire to really suppress the activity fully of the fire. But raising the humidity does tend to lower fire behavior. I saw a statement from Parks Canada today, and they are really best placed to speak to the exact conditions on the fire. But they did say that they did receive some rain. Reports in the area say there was rain on and off overnight, but it really wasn't sufficient in order to really make a humongous change there in the fire that they're dealing with. So this is still obviously a long-term firefight for now.
My next question will be for one of the ministers or the premier perhaps, but just with the level of destruction that we're seeing in Jasper, can you talk about the potential to expand benefits for evacuees who may be away from home for a long time?
Well, one of the ways in which we support evacuees is that we set up the emergency response centers. As Minister Ellis mentioned, we have them in Grand Prairie, Edmonton, and Calgary. We also provide support for them to be able to go to hotels and be able to get meals. Our program kicks in after day 7, $1,250 per adult, $500 per child, and so there's already 3 communities that have been out 7 days or longer that are going to qualify for that. Minister Ellis mentioned that, but we have a long-term recovery that we'll have to work with our federal counterparts on. We're seeing potentially 30 to 50% structural damage. To give you some idea, I mean, you've seen the images as I have. We don't know particularly which structures have been damaged and which ones have been destroyed, but that's going to be a significant rebuild and significant displacement for a long period of time. Fire is one of those types of hazards that is normally covered by insurance, and so we'll integrate with insurance companies to make sure people have the long-term support to be out outside. And then we'll have to have a conversation with our cabinet if there's any gaps that need to be filled. Did you have any more to say on that, Minister Ellis?
I think you're going to be speaking with the Prime Minister.
Yeah, but sorry, I should just mention, you can add if you want. I believe we've lined up a call with the Prime Minister for 2:30 today, and Minister Harjit Sajjan will be here as well. So, and I've been in touch with the Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, Dominic LeBlanc, and we'll do a briefing afterwards. So at the moment, we still have to put all the fires out. We still have to deal with the immediate emergency and make sure that there isn't more structural damage. And then once that's stabilized, we'll have to do an assessment to get into recovery.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Lisa Johnson with the Canadian Press. Premier, you mentioned 30 to 60% structural damage. I'm wondering if you can give us a few more details of what critical infrastructure is left in the town that now needs to be protected.
All I can say, I mean, we haven't had a line of sight on what has happened. As you probably saw, when structural firefighting is very different, because when structures start to burn, it sets off a toxic amount of chemicals in the air. So many of the Parks Canada officials had to leave last night, and so there was structural firefighters that remained. I think what you're seeing is just some of the images online that some of those folks on the ground have been able to take and post, but we don't have any more confirmation other than what we've all seen on Twitter. We're going to be making sure that we get a full briefing from Parks Canada. I understand that there's emergency meeting of the DMs with Minister LeBlanc right now. We'd been told that Parks Canada is arranging for some kind of more formal briefing. I don't think that they've pinned down a time on that yet, but they'll be the ones who have the direct line of sight on what the structural damage looks like.
And just on that as well, I don't know if you can provide any more information, but those folks who left last night because of the issues that you mentioned, can you speak to what operationally is being done now? Are they coming back to Jasper to assist, or?
It's probably all the structural guys.
Yeah, so the firefighters that left were the wildland firefighters, and we haven't heard when they'll be coming back in. Right now, the focus is on the structures within Jasper, and that'll be the focus right now. I expect that the wildland firefighters will be back in shortly to be able to take care of the actual wildfire itself. And but again, right now, the focus is on the structural. Did you want to add?
We did have 2 unit crews, which are crews of 20 firefighters that were in Jasper working on the wildland aspect of this fire. I have heard from them. We've had a check-in with them, obviously regarding what they experienced last night, and they are ready to go back to work.
Let me just further add, we were very fortunate to have Joe Zatilny, who's a ADM in Alberta Emergency Management, former fire chief in Edmonton. He's been, of course, on the phone, as many of us have been throughout the days and the nights. And we've been able to bring in structural firefighters from 32 municipalities all throughout Alberta. So it is certainly grateful to all the municipalities that stepped up to the plate in order to assist what is going on in Jasper. Just so everybody is aware, firefighting from a structural firefighting is different than firefighting from a wildfire. And I think, as my colleagues have previously mentioned, when you're dealing with structural firefighters, there's a lot of unknown risks, sometimes gas leaks, sometimes toxic fumes. So this is very different. I just want to correct what that one reporter indicated. It's 30 to 50%. Again, this is a very ongoing and fluid situation. There's still fires that are going within the community of Jasper. So we're still assessing the situation, and we're hoping for a further update from Parks Canada as to the extent of the damage.
Thank you. And seeing no new faces here in the room, we're going to move over to the phones. Operator, could you put through our first caller, please? Operator, could you put through our first caller on the line, please?
The lines are open. Mr. Charles Delisle.
Hello, Charles Delisle, Radio Canada, Alberta. My question is for Steven Lacroix, if he could answer in French. Basically, what happened? Did it move too quickly? Can we get like an answer in French?
Oui, je vais répéter ce que la première ministre a déjà mentionné. Ce qui est essentiellement arrivé, c'est que les vents extrêmes ont fait en sorte que le feu a augmenté de façon totalement incontrôlable et progressé vers la municipalité de Jasper. Donc, c'est essentiellement ce qui s'est passé. Pas grand-chose qui pouvait être fait de plus. Et aussi, je mentionnerais que c'était tout sous l'égide de Parc Canada et de la municipalité de Jasper qui gérait l'incident, qui est en fait dans un parc national sous laquelle, à ce moment-ci, la province, bien contente d'entrer en une forme de commandement partagé avec les deux autorités que j'ai mentionnées, et sous l'égide de Parc Canada et de la municipalité de Jasper, encore une fois. Merci. Yeah, so essentially, I kind of repeated what the Prime Minister said. Stated that the fire became out of control, or was already out of control, but it was uncontrollable is the way I would depict it, due to the wind gusts that brought the fire up to about 100 meters high at one point, and covered an inordinate amount of space in a very little amount of time, which led us to the situation that we're in. I also mentioned that Unified Command is actually between the municipality of Jasper and Parks Canada, and that we're trying to find a way to insert ourselves in that construct to be at the table, influencing and sharing in the decisions that are being made to deal with this issue. Thank you.
And did you have a follow-up, Charles?
Yes, this one's for Minister Ellis. Were the evacuation alerts sent to people in Jasper on Monday on their phones, even with those without the Alberta Emergency Alert app? And if not, how was it communicated to the tourists that were there?
Well, I might get Stephen to supplement this, to be honest with you. But yeah, we, of course, utilized our Alberta Emergency Management System to make sure that alerts were sent out to everyone. Obviously, there are, of course, the challenges of people that are, backpacking and hiking and camping like that. But we, of course, utilized our local police, the RCMP of area, to also engage their resources in order to assist with locating and evacuating people out of the area. But I don't know if you can explain a little bit more, Stephen.
Yeah, very briefly. Thanks, Minister. Yeah, I would add that the Alberta Emergency Alert System, so broadcast intrusive and application were used. The municipality of Jasper also used their own tool that they have called Voyant, I believe you. And to be perfectly honest, this is a question that should probably be addressed to Parks Canada and Mayor Ireland and his team. But that's what transpired. There were 200% checks done by the RCMP in town, door knocking, door to door, to make sure everybody was out. I know that Parks Canada went out and sought out backcountry campers and notified them that depending where they were in relation to the fire coming, they could hitch a ride with the helicopter that found them, or they needed to hike back to their vehicles and get out of the park. So that's as much as I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Could we get it in
Operator.
French?
OK, Charles, je vais essayer de me rappeler de ce que je viens de mentionner en anglais. Donc, on a une application, telle que mentionné, qui distribue les alertes de façon intrusive sur les téléphones de toutes les personnes qui sont dans, disons, la région géographique de l'alerte. Il y a aussi une application qui permet de distribuer ces alarmes. La municipalité de Jasper a aussi un autre système qui s'appelle Voyant, qui ont utilisé. Par la suite, la GRC a visité 100% des résidences de la municipalité de Jasper. Donc, la journée même où l'alerte a été donnée et le lendemain pour s'assurer que tout le monde avait quitté les lieux. Parc Canada a aussi fait ce qu'il y avait à faire pour aviser les campeurs qui étaient dans l'arrière-pays en train de camper ou de faire de la randonnée pédestre ou de l'alpinisme. Et finalement, c'est une question qui était peut-être mieux adressées, encore une fois, à Parc Canada et à la municipalité de Jasper, qui ont été les autorités qui ont émis l'alerte en premier lieu. Merci.
Thank you, Charles. And operator, could you put through our next caller?
The next one is from Vincent McDermott. Please ask your question.
Hi, this would probably be for everybody here. After the 2016 wildfire in Fort McMurray, Alberta announced evacuees would get emergency financial relief 2 days after the evacuation. Jasper has seen similar destruction to Fort McMurray. Actually, if we're talking percentage-wise, Jasper lost a greater percentage of the town. So why not just authorize those payments now? I mean, does anyone here really believe this evacuation will last fewer than 7 days?
One of the decisions that we made in previous emergencies is that we would wait for 7 days, because there's oftentimes you can return within a shorter period of time, as has happened. We have had evacuations already this fire season, which started early, and we have been able to get people back home within 7 days. There is a Treasury Board process that we have to go through in order to be able to accelerate or expedite that. And so we'll be meeting as an emergency management committee each day, gauging it. But the main thing that people need right now is to have the immediate support. So the support of the hotels, the food, the emergency evacuation, that's part of the reason why we wait until 7 days, because we know that we have a lot of support that we're able to give as people are figuring out where they're going to go, find out whether they're going to be able to return home, find out whether their home is going to survive. We'll gauge it. We'll listen to feedback about how people are feeling. But we know that this is going to be, for many people, a long-term period of time that they will be out. We'll have to obviously work with their insurance companies to ensure as well that they're able to get the support payments through insurance so that they can be supported that way also. But we do want to do whatever we can to be supportive.
And did you have a follow-up, Vincent?
Sure. Well, Fort McMurray had the advantage of high vacancies during the wildfire because the oil sands boom had just ended, and the main industry up here was able to restart pretty quickly. So Jasper, does not have high vacancies, and tourist infrastructure is in rough shape. So are there any ideas about where residents who lost their homes will be staying while they await their rebuild?
Look, I mean, we're right in the middle of fighting fires still. There's still dangers in the community. There's still structural fires occurring. So I think in any development of an emergency response, you have to deal with the immediate fire and the immediate danger, which is what everyone is doing. We'll continue meeting as an emergency management committee to identify the steps along the way once we do move into recovery and have a better sense of how many people are going to be displaced. But I think it's a bit too early for us to plan that until we know we have some certainty about what structures have been damaged.
Thank you, Vincent. Operator, could you go ahead and put through our next caller, please?
Yes, the next one is from David Staples. Please ask your question.
Thanks for taking my call. I'd just like to clarify a point that was raised earlier. Premier, you mentioned that Alberta has the capacity to fight fires at night with helicopters and, if I'm not mistaken, you said water bombers. What is the difference when it's run by Parks Canada? For them to use that kind of equipment, what's the process where they can use that kind of equipment, that night fighting ability? And was that requested, if it's their responsibility to request that, was that requested earlier this week? And has that been used there, or was it not used?
Well, I can tell you that what we learned last year by having over 2 million hectares burned is that Minister Lowen recognized that fighting with the weather and the change in temperature was really going to be the most effective way for us to get ahead of it. So as you've heard, we've had hundreds of fires around the province that we have been lead on. And our approach there has been to do exactly that, to use night vision helicopters where we can, identify the fire, send in teams at night, and be able to douse them right after they start so that they don't grow out of control. So I'll turn it over to, that's become our standard practice, where it's where we can do that and where we do have the authority. I'll turn it over to Minister Lowen to talk about Jasper in particular.
Yeah, so the process with Parks Canada is they make requests because they're in control of the situation there, and they make requests, and we've provided that. When they make requests for this equipment, for instance, night vision helicopters, then we provide the personnel, the helicopter, and everything to help fight that fire. And that's the way it's worked in this situation all the way through. We've provided Parks Canada with every request that they've had, we've fulfilled, and made sure that they had every available resource that was possible. So I'm not, Christy, did you have something to add?
I just say we have used night vision enabled helicopters very effectively so far this season. They allow us to understand the perimeters of a fire and even fight the fire overnight while the activity is low. We did make night vision helicopters available to Parks Canada to use on the wildfire in Jasper last night. Unfortunately, conditions meant that aircraft were not able to fly because of that extreme weather, smoke. It's not possible to fly in all conditions, unfortunately, and we were unable to use night vision last night.
Thank you. And David, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, so usually when there's a massive wildfire in Alberta, there's often major reports that come out investigating best practices and what caused it. We already have, of course, tons of theories and ideas about what caused this fire. And I'm just wondering what the post-mortem process will be for this particular fire. Will Alberta be involved, or will this be just a federal post-mortem because it's a national park fire, or do you know that yet? Like how we're going to get to the bottom of how maybe we can avoid this kind of thing in the future?
Well, what we'll be proposing to Minister Sajjan when he joins us today, and I hope that we'll be able to proceed on, is a joint inquiry into finding out best practices. You may recall we passed legislation in the spring session that gives us the authority to step in any municipality when we see that they might be overwhelmed or when it goes cross jurisdiction. There's a reason why we did that, is we didn't have the authority to do that all over the province. And we understood that federal land is federal jurisdiction. We figured that mutual aid agreements would be enough for us to be able to provide support. It may well be that we have to talk about how we have unified command right from the beginning, that if we're going to see a parks agency go to unified command with the municipality, it could well be that we make the decision that we come in at that time. That would be one part. And I think we do have to look at all of our parks. There's a fire going on in Banff right now. We've had fires in Waterton in previous years as well. And so I think that in this one in particular, since it's a bit unique to have to deal with a federal agency, there may be additional learning that comes from that. I don't know if you want to comment, Minister Ellis.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, Minister Sajjan, certainly these are discussions we're going to have with him regarding better, call it collaboration. I can tell you that Alberta Emergency Management, Alberta Wildfire, certainly recognized in Canada as being certainly one of the most prepared organizations in Canada. I know in my conversations with Minister Lowen, him and his team and the wildfire folks that are out there right now, they're absolutely stepping up to the plate and doing whatever they can. I've had extensive conversations with Minister Sajjan. They have been very positive. Let me just be clear on that. Minister Sajjan has recognized that there might be some gaps, especially when we've been talking already about the unified command and potential structure and how Alberta can be more a part of the decision-making process. And that's one of the reasons why he's coming to Alberta. It's not just to assess the situation, but he wants to work with us because we're understanding, some of the challenges that we're having from an AMA perspective as well as an Alberta wildfire perspective. And the only other thing I want to add, which is beyond, we'll say, the question that you asked, David. I think people need to understand that fire was about 5 kilometers out. I know Stephen mentioned that there was an enormous wind gust. That wind gust moved that fire 5 kilometers in probably less than 30 minutes with a wall of fire that was about 100 meters high. I think people need to picture what those wildfire folks were experiencing at that time. And there is really, any firefighter will tell you there's little to nothing you can do when you have a wall of flames coming out like that. So kudos to those folks that were the heroes that stood their ground in order to fight that fire. Kudos to the folks who are the structural firefighters that were preparing for that fire to be coming, but nobody anticipated that fire to come so fast, so large, and so quickly. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. We have time for one, maybe two more questions. Operator, could you put through our next caller, please?
Yes, the next one is from Jonathan Bradley. Your line is now open.
Hello, Premier Smith. Thank you for taking my question. So your government over the last few years has made various cuts to Alberta's wildfire fighting budget. Do you regret making those cuts now? Why or why not?
Well, look, I mean, my first firefighting season was last year, and what we did in response to that was we increased the firefighting budget by 50%. In 2023-4, it was $100.4 million. In 24-25, we increased it to $155.4 million, and that's the highest it's ever been. And there's a reason for that. Is that we knew that we needed to get some of the equipment and change some of the practices, as Minister Lowen had mentioned. We declared the start of forest fire season early. We had all of our personnel hired and in place by April 15th, which is May 15th? By May 15th. And in addition to that, because of the amount of damage that we saw last year, when I first came in, we had a $1 billion contingency. My first budget, we increased that to a $1.5 billion contingency. And this budget, we increased to a $2 billion contingency. So there is no limit to the amount of money that we will spend to make sure that we have the resources that we need and to make sure that we have the money available to assist with the recovery. So I would say that we've looked at the lessons of the past and we made the appropriate amount of investment in this budget year.
And did you have a follow-up, Jonathan?
Yeah. So you spoke about Jasper and how the community is destroyed and damaged, and how the Alberta government is going to be there to assist. What will your government do to assist with rebuilding Jasper?
Well, look, I mean, this is, again, one of the conversations we'll have to have with Minister Sajjan as well as Minister LeBlanc when he's here today, because I've observed, for instance, that a similar tragedy in British Columbia 3 years in, they haven't begun reconstruction, and we have to be able to accelerate and move faster than that. This is one of the most important jewels in our national park system, not only in the province but in all of Canada. And so anything we can do to accelerate some of the development approvals, we want to be able to work collaboratively with the federal government on that. What often happens is that the municipality and province takes the leads on rebuilding, and then we cost share with the federal government in these kinds of disasters. So we just want to make sure that there aren't any obstructions or barriers in being able to get the rebuilding done.
Thank you. And we have time for one last question. Operator, could you put through the next caller, please?
Yes, the next one is from Dennis Cupton. Please ask your question.
And that's a question pertaining mostly to Northern Alberta, so I guess Christy Tucker would be the best place to answer it. You did say that the conditions are a bit better in this part of the province at this time. Can you kind of elaborate on that and what is going on, given also the fact that local municipalities have lifted the evacuation alert in the hamlet of Janvier?
Yes, the actions of municipalities is an indication of the change in conditions that we have seen in the northern, many parts of the north of the province. We have seen precipitation come in that has been extremely welcome to the teams that are working hard on those areas with communities that have been evacuated or have been under threat of evacuation. Obviously, those are still a priority for Alberta Wildfire, and no matter what else is going on in the province, and we are getting the resources in to allocate as needed. It also gives us an opportunity to move teams around, move aircraft around, move equipment where we need it at any given time in the province. So certainly Many people in the north of the province happy to see some rain, firefighters among them, but it may mean that they are relocated somewhere else where we are seeing rising wildfire danger, as we have seen quite a lot of activity in the south as well. And one of the things to mention to people in the south of the province, many haven't experienced the same kind of conditions that we have seen up north, and they're getting them now. Things are very dry and very hot, and we are seeing winds in that area of the province, and we've seen the effect that wind can have on fire. But one thing to mention is that Alberta Wildfire needs water for our skimmers, and we often use natural lakes and bodies of water that are in the area to allow us to move quickly to drop water where we need to on wildfires. We've had some reports of people in boats and watercraft who may not have moved out of the way quickly enough when skimmer needs to collect water. We do need people to be aware, particularly in those areas with a wildfire in the vicinity. If you see an air tanker, a skimmer, a wildfire plane coming towards the lake, please get out of the lake so it's safe for us to collect water. We can drop it quickly on wildfire and respond as quickly as we need to. Thank you.
And did you have a follow-up, Dennis?
Yes. This is perhaps mostly for the Premier or one of the ministers. You did request support from the Canadian Armed Forces. Can you kind of elaborate on how the military resources will be utilized and what personnel did you request specifically? So is it going to be combat engineers who will practice kind of their training and their craft, or is it going to be infanteers and personnel from the land forces who are going to be assisting firefighters, and also where do you anticipate military personnel to be deployed?
Yeah, first of all, I would just mention that, I mean, the world has become a very dangerous place in recent months and years, and we know that our men and women in uniform have to be deployed. I understand there have been some deployments of the PPCLI, which is who we relied on last year. And so last year they were able to provide us 300 individuals who were trained in forest firefighting. And so I don't know if we'll be able to get the same number this year, but the kind of supports that we've requested in the letter that Minister Ellis wrote was the provision of firefighting resources, provision of wildfire mitigation resources in order to reduce the risk to homes, businesses, critical infrastructure, and communities, prepositioning of strategic airlift resources for the evacuation of isolated communities. We used them last year for Fort Chipewyan. Air support to be able to remove wildfire crews and equipment. Aerial infrared scanning and collection of wildfire status information, and logistics support. I think either Stephen might be able to explain a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you, Premier. I would also add that as Premier Smith mentioned, we warned off our counterparts and our colleagues on July 18th. Today at 1 o'clock, actually, the commander of Joint Task Force West, Brigadier General Wade Rutland, is meeting with Alberta Wildfire officials to strategize about where these troops will have the most effect in the province. So then we can expect Joint Task Force West's resources arriving in the vicinity of where they will be deployed for reconnaissance, and then troops following on after that. So it's an open dialogue and conversation as to where the military is best suited to be employed by Alberta Wildfire, what Alberta Wildfire sees in terms of what's happening on the landscape for the next days or weeks, and that determination is about to be made actually starting this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's all the time we have for questions today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Everyone.